Hey.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
No sound?
Mary, we can hear you.
No, I don't hear anybody.
Yeah,
Mary,
you hear us
we can
now?
hear you.
Hello.
Roshan, can you
Hi,
hear me?
Mary.
Yes, Mary.
Hello.
Yeah, Mary, that looks like an audio problem at your end. Let me give you a call, Mary.
Hi.
Here we go. Wow, here we go.
Yeah, so Mary, can you hear us?
I can now. Thank you so much.
All right. Okay, good. So, well, let me introduce Mary. Mary, I'm Roshan Shah, and I am the board of director of Teenager Startups. And this is a very good, innovative startup, I think, for teenagers. The idea came from my son. I have been a judge in IIM Ahmedabad and EDI and quite a few and few of my startups. I also mentor Canadian startups here. So my elder son is doing double degree here, and he is also a TEDx. He organizes those events, but my 11-year wanted to see that there's no such platform for young teenagers, and then he said, why don't we do something to connect 1.2 billion teenagers worldwide? So Teenager Startups is just a start, but we are going to take this more as a very, very immersive platform to make it more like a LinkedIn for teenagers. But this is just a starting point. So Mary is our advisor, and she's brilliant. I think once you work with her, you will know that, I've known Mary for about more than 10 years. And I can tell you that, when it comes to English language and command over English, she is probably the queen of English language. So yes, very strong command. I have studied right through English medium in my career. I have 43 years my age, but I have never seen anybody so powerful in English language. So I think there'll be a tremendous experience for all of you guys to be associated and learn from Mary. So I'll hand it over to Mary. Mary, it's all yours. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Roshan. Thank you for this enormous privilege to participate, to collaborate, and to literally build the future together with the most amazing team. And we will all get acquainted with each other and really learn from each other. And yeah, it's just a tremendously exciting time and a brilliant, brilliant concept. So I think that it would be really great to share my screen with you. And let me just do one thing here, and we can get started with sharing for a minute. Can you see my screen?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, here we go. I'm going to do something here. Just take view and slideshow. Okay, can you see my screen now?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, so welcome to this absolutely amazing kickoff meeting. We are the Featured Stories Media Group, right? That's, if anybody asks you who we are, we're the Featured Stories Media Group for teenager startups. And our role, our titles are Featured Story Media Coordinators. So this is our very, very first meeting ever. It's 8 o'clock in the morning in New York City, and I don't know what time it is there. What time is it there?
You're up at 8 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah,
Right.
8 o'clock in our morning, and you guys are at 6:30 evening, Mary. Yeah.
Oh my goodness sakes. Oh, fantastic. So I'm going to stop my video right now, so there's less to see on the screen. Okay, so here we are, just starting this absolutely totally immersive world, and we are actually preceding the launch of the website. So anyway, what are we doing? We know that we're representing teenager startups, and we're going to be connecting with country resources, and we want to identify teenager entrepreneurs and write and publish featured stories about these extraordinary and innovative teams. they are really exceptional because they are innovating their futures, just like you are right now. You're pivoting from something that you've been doing, and you're pivoting to something extremely innovative in our world of transformational, a transformational period. So the thing that just grabs me the most about what we're doing is that we're going to be aligning ourselves with innovators who they're doing two things. They're, number one, either doing something in what we in business call pure business play, pure financial play. That means that they are building these innovations and their businesses just for money only, pure play financial, pure play financial model. The other model is not the pure play financial model, and that is something that like doing good and being responsible and trying to have a larger view of the globe and the planet and how they play a role in the planet. And I think that we sent a little brief overview on George Bailey to you from the UK, who has built an eyeglass business based on sourcing fishing nets and plastics that have been repurposed to build these glasses. If someone has their sound down, do you want to turn off your sound? Thank you.
Yeah, can you somebody actually put a mute on? Mary, I'm going to see where the voice is coming from, and I'll put a mute.
No problem.
Yeah.
So here we are. I want to talk to you about our potential, and I want to tell you that as far as our research is concerned, we know that there are 1.6 billion teenagers in the world. And I think all of them are like you. They share the same concerns, and they really want a chance to control their own futures, right? So here in the United States, teenagers are pretty much expected to, go to college, get a job, and build a family and have an important life, or have a life. And what's happened here with teenage startups is that most teenagers, especially here in the United States, because of the culture here, can't really control their own futures, right? What do they do to control their own futures? And so some of them, in fact, realize that having a job with a corporation or a company is very, very limiting. The time span for somebody having a job here, a young person getting out of college, having a job here, is 2 to 3 years. And then technology takes over and they're out of a job. So there are a lot of stories from a lot of teenage startups about why they started their innovation and why, and so on and so forth. So there's a lot of story behind, limitations that teenagers are facing, and how to overcome those limitations by seeing something really fantastic and something that interests them and something they want to do, and then create a business around it. So the most extraordinary thing for me, and the most exciting thing, is that no one yet has captured this marketplace, right? No one has a place for teenage entrepreneurs to assemble and to communicate and connect and collaborate and share their stories. Also, what's really fascinating to me, because I've worked for media companies before and created media companies before, is that there's no media organization ever to address this particular market set. So you're the people who are going to be doing that. So it's really absolutely incredible. And like Roshan said, there's no community that exists right now to empower the future of teens. So it's our great desire to connect with all these teenage entrepreneurs and to shine a light on the influence of teenager startups. So I want to tell you another a personal story that makes my excitement about this sort of come to light. And that is when we say there's no community exists to empower the future of teens, a marketplace is really something like there's cultural marketplaces, you know, where there's certain things that trends and people gravitate toward the you know, certain cultural impact. There's financial impact, and like the financial markets right now, everybody is pivoting to fintech, financial technology, or med tech, or wealth tech, or whatever. But technology always has such a big influence. And then, of course, the teenager startups is another market segment. So when I was just a little bit older than you, and out of school and working for a very, very, very large ad agency in New York City called Ogilvy, I was part of the IBM team and the AT&T team. And I just saw great limitations on what they were doing. I saw the internet and got terribly excited about it, could not convince senior management to, you know, to get involved in the internet. So I left there and went out to New Jersey and aligned myself with a very large technology company. And then together we built all sorts of technology tools to produce media on the web, which wasn't possible in those days. And so the marketplace there that we selected was something here in the United States called country market. The country market here in the United States at that time was about 140 million people. And they were impassioned over country music and NASCAR racing and hunting and fishing and so on and so forth. A very, very large marketplace. We ended up building a marketplace website called country.com, like teenager startups. It just claimed this entire market segment. Instead of creating a little teeny tiny website for people who love music, it was a whole broad marketplace. And we ended up, people came to the website. It was the publishing on the website was from 27 different databases. There was so much there for people in terms of content that they stayed on average 23 minutes. So that was it's very, very remarkable for somebody to stay in a website for 23 minutes. And so that particular site, country.com, was sold off to a very, very, very large company and so on and so forth. My second example of a completely fabulous marketplace is fintech. And I was running my company we were doing a lot of very, very advanced branding and business building and technology. But I just felt like one day a robot and a blockchain was going to tap me on my shoulder, and I wouldn't be valid anymore. I wouldn't have any kind of validity. And so I went to MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology, and learned everything I could about fintech, right? And so I ended up collaborating with other people from MIT, and we built the largest community for anybody involved in fintech. So what I'm saying here is that there are very, very few opportunities in a whole entire career to claim an entire marketplace. And that's why, and that is, you know, in my life, it was country, it's fintech, and it's teenagers. So you can imagine, I just want to underscore how totally extraordinary this really is. So here we go. You know, where do we find resources to connect and collaborate and cultivate these opportunities that we want to create for ourselves? So we want and need to find teenagers to contact through, where do we go? We go to news stories, we go to newsletters, we can go to government agencies, to the Chamber of Commerce, and to school administrators. And then, you know, you'll be able to figure out from your own creative explorations, where can you connect with teenage entrepreneurs? So next, let's see if I can make this move. Yeah. So we know from the Word file that we uploaded to our WhatsApp channel that one family in the UK did some really, really interesting exploration of data. And so most countries will allow you to request data if it's not readily available. So in fact, this country found around 4,000 people, teenagers aged 16 to 19, that had been entrepreneurs in the UK. And so it's a good, wonderful, amazing starting point for us to know that you can find entrepreneurial data, in the countries that you are representing. So I understand that you are now signing up for a country to represent an entire country. And this is an example of where you can go to begin to build your database of contacts. Next now is this amazing range. Our range is larger than the one requested in the UK. Our range is preteens, 8 years old to 24. And why 24, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24? Well, some of the entrepreneurs that we've connected started their businesses when they were teenagers, and now they're managing those companies. So you don't want to limit yourself to 13 to 18. You want to dig down into the preteens who are starting businesses and will be managing businesses by the time they're a teenager. And then of course, when they're in their 20s, they're managing businesses that they created when they were teens. So it's really absolutely a good range to consider. So here's our process. We're gonna research teenager startups. We're gonna identify and select the teens, and we'll connect. The big part of what we do, the most professional thing that we can do, is to communicate, and to communicate really, really well. So you introduce yourself, tell them who you are, you tell them about your role, and articulate what you need. So you can use this kind of language between the quotes if you like, and you can create your own very, very clear introduction. And then once you tell them what you're doing and what you need, and you need their help, you have to, at the end of the contact, you have to ask for an action step. You want them to do something for you, and that is, you want them to help clarify contacts that they might have for you, teenage contacts, right? And so then whenever you connect with the team, you'll say, hi, so-and-so, I received your name from the Chamber of Commerce in Paris, and I would love to talk to you about teenager startups and featuring you as a story in our media program. So then the other thing about this opportunity for you is much, much bigger than just being someone who connects up with teenagers and go through the process. A really big gift that you're going to be given in your career is the very beginning of building your own reputation and building your own future. So when let's just say you're connecting with a Chamber of Commerce in Amsterdam, for instance. So that person who's helping to provide you with connections and with contacts with teenagers, you want to send them a thank you, stay in touch with them, and then don't hesitate to provide your progress to them. Tell them where you are. You're writing the story. Love to send them the story. Send them a link to the published story on teenager startups. And then these ongoing communications can build a very strong and lasting relationship. So if you have contacted the president of the Chamber of Commerce in Stockholm, you want to continue to build that relationship throughout your own career. And so this is like a gift to be able to make these global connections from wherever you live. All right, so more steps in the processes after communications. You write the featured story, send it to us, and we will then annotate it and send it back to you for a draft. at our next stand-up meeting or our next video call, we'll talk about SEO and why SEO, search engine optimization, is going to be important to include in the content of your writing and in the titles of your articles. So we'll come back to that and not drill too far down into the weeds right now. But then you'll return the final, or we'll return the final draft. And then one thing that you can do very creatively is to ask the people, the teenagers that you're writing about, for imagery. So you can have photographs or their logos. And so you really want to pay attention to visualize a visual story as much as you want to pay attention to the written story, so that there's just a beautiful marriage between what people experience with the writing. They're going to appreciate the story itself, but then the imagery creates a whole parallel story. So think about what kind of images or photos or graphics or whatever you can ask your entrepreneur for, and have them help you then visualize the story. And so then your story is published. And then you can communicate back to the entrepreneur, tell them the story is published. They're free then. You should tell them they're free to add the article to their websites or social media, anywhere they wish. And eventually you're going to create a collection of stories that are bylined. It's called a byline, bylined by you. So next is the certification. And the certification is really great. I received a certification when I attended a course at MIT, and you'll receive a certification for the work that you're doing with teenage startups. So we're preparing a certification program, a bona fide official certification program that will be recognized everywhere. And what will happen is that you'll receive the certification as an icon next to your name. So just say you have the title of your article, the byline is your name, and then there'll be a certificate award icon next to it. So everybody in the globe who reads your story will know that you're certified by teenager startups. That's pretty exciting. So I just thought that maybe I should pause here. That's just a lot of information, and there's obviously a ton more information that we do want to share with you. And I just want to open up the call for any questions or comments. And for one thing, we have to have an arrangement between our relationships together, and that is at any time that you can see an improvement in the process, we're absolutely totally open to improving any experience that we have together as the media group. So let me open the call to any kind of comments or questions that you might have. So you have to unmute if you want to ask a question.
Hi, Mary. It was really nice hearing you talk and share your experience. And I mean, I don't know how this whole thing will be formulated, because right now I have seen entrepreneurs, but they don't like to share their ideas or their work ethics or stuff like that with others, especially other entrepreneurs. So I mean, this is something that I had a doubt in the back of my mind, like how entrepreneurs will be helping and sharing stuff with each other.
So there are several steps in the process. Here, let me start my video again. Here we go. So there's many steps in the process of being an entrepreneur. And at the very, very beginning, when an idea is very vulnerable, right? You have a vision, you haven't quite shaped it yet. You have to create a business plan. You don't want to share anything there at all. Then next after the business plan comes it's called a POC, proof of concept, right? And so you create a website that may not be live, right? And you lay out your complete idea, right? And
All
then
right.
at that point, you're going to need some kind of friends and family startup funding. You have to at that point, you have to fund then the endeavor. And so so sharing the story at that point is very, very, very selective. You would just, you would make that POC available to investors, or, some schools have entrepreneurial funds. So you would,
Oh.
yeah. And so you would have a top page of the POC, and you would allow, it would then have a login. So those entrepreneurs would then very selectively hand the or provide the login information, and then and usually that's with a Google call or a Zoom call of some sort, that they will then walk somebody through their POC, their concept, right? And then they would discuss the business plan. So still, no one is seeing it. They're not sharing that information because it's too vulnerable. They're just getting, right? They're just getting started. And then there comes somebody like George Bailey in the UK, who then is ready to show his Corel eyeglass business to everyone. And that's called at that point, it's called, the website or the business is called an MVP, a minimal viable product, right?
Okay.
And so that's the point where a teenager will want to talk to everybody.
Okay.
About their startup. So you're absolutely right. How is it formulated? Well, you'll find that there are certain teenagers in various processes, and they say, hey, I'm not really ready yet to talk to you, but I'm going to be launching my POC soon, and maybe in September I'll have my MVP ready to go. I would love to talk to you. I'll share my story with you, and just get back to me then, right?
Okay.
Okay.
So we reach out to them at that time.
Oh, Roshan, yes, please.
Yeah. So Dhruv, I can add to that, because I have seen many startups and evaluated many of them. So I can tell you that it's all about passion. Everybody has a Facebook idea. Everybody gets up in the morning and says, "Oh, here is my next big idea." At least if you are into that entrepreneurial mindset. But if you don't talk about it, it's all about your commitment and your execution, which is more important, right? So for them, not telling anybody or not sharing the idea is a disadvantage to them, because the more they talk to people, the more they will revalidate their idea with the people also they talk to, right?
Understood.
They will ask questions. So sometimes for example, teenager startups, we launched it, but I can tell you that in long term, probably in 2021, what you guys are working on is a public facing website. There's a separate something called a platform which we are building, which is microservices and API driven, like a very complex immersive world, which has games and everything. You can name it, because you see that today we have everybody, only when you are programming or creating Word documents or presentations, that's the time when you go into computer. Otherwise, you're always on your smartphone, and just time. So we are building up an immersive world for teenagers. Now, guess what? What is going to happen? Teenager startups, the brand name is going to change at that point of time, right? So we are thinking through probably next 10 years what we want to do, right? But we are also talking to a selective group of people that here is an idea. Our technology team knows about it, right? Which is developing. And these are a lot of interns and senior people who are working out of Ahmedabad right now. And we are adding to the team. But as I said, this is something which started in December, and 1 month we have made a lot of progress, right? And we are going to do more. So unless if you don't talk, then your idea is going to die with you.
I totally agree with you, Roshan. But the thing is, see, that's a perspective that open-minded people have. And I mean, I'm an entrepreneur myself, okay? Although I started late, so I won't be able to enroll in your program per se. I'll do what I can from my side to get the stories to you and, get other people's story out in the open.
Right.
So even I had the same issue. I mean, I wanted to share and talk to people, but people, I mean, entrepreneurs are more restrictive, and they are trying to, probably they are not at the stage like Mary was talking about, that minimum viable product stage where they can share the information or stuff like that. So
Well, it's a different thing today now in India, Dhruv. Now, gone are the days when, the Ambanis would have a son as their Ambanis and Adanis will have sons as their Ambanis running the startups, and they would keep it to themselves. Now there is equity play. You can see so much amount of the billions and billions of dollars have been pumped into Indian startups, with some of the biggest names in the venture capital and private equity industry, right? Like Flipkart, and you have every story. So now you are seeing that people are. You don't want to be a big fish in a small pond, right? If there's an opportunity to share
there
your
is no
data,
point in being
there's
that.
no point in doing that. It's if you dilute your equity and get funding, and the only way you can grow is to get funding and to give up control. And I've seen some very, very mature people who are in their 40s, and they are so restrictive and holding on to everything and trying to do everything by themselves, that they lose the idea of growing and scaling, right? So it is important that you take a specific role. If you are a product owner, just be a product owner. If you have an idea, reach out to people, find how you'll fund it, how you'll grow it, because without marketing, without getting your product in hands of people, your product has no value, right? And the only way you can do that is to get attention. I can tell you, no journalist would not like to cover any promising idea. It's how you can reach out to journalists. If you are going to your local media, or let's say your local paper, whatever language you are in, Malayalam, Telugu, Hindi, Gujarati, and say, here is what I'm doing, and here's something exciting I'm doing, they will cover you. Everybody wants to know something which is innovative, and they want to share. If you don't want to share, you don't know, right? So that's totally.
Yeah, I totally support what you're saying, and I like to share, because then you get the valuable feedback, whatever that might be, and you get to learn from it.
Right.
Absolutely.
You don't.
Sure.
Right. And one of the problems, that is the reason why all these innovations, and if you see all the best of the best innovation comes in US, is because even in Canada, right? My son has been into, he's in grade 11, the one who is talking, and he has been into entrepreneurship program called Junior Achievement, right? Junior Achievement, he started on the manufacturing, was manufacturing chapsticks, then he was manufacturing, I think, scented candles, right? Small things, but there was a fish tank kind of shark tank kind of event here, and they would have investors. He would pitch to them. He goes and makes board presentations. Now in his grade 11, he has a team of 19 people, right, reporting to him. He's the president of a startup. Right. And this is all happening as a part of extracurricular activity, which is outside the school. Every Monday he does that. Now, this culture is there in North America. I know Aam Aadmi Party is trying to do something in Delhi. They approached me, and, we are trying to see what they are doing. So they are actually doing it in 14,000 schools. This is the first year. They are trying to do it in grade 9. I think they are paying 6,000 rupees per student. Every single student in 40,000 schools is getting that. So that's a great exposure, for them to actually think outside into the real world and try and solve real world problems. So I think if that culture gets into schools in different parts of the world, and they get into such kind of junior achievement, in Washington itself, junior achievement every year probably trains about 100,000 students. Right? Just on this entrepreneurship program. That's why this entrepreneurship, and when junior achievement, DECA, shared, the Knowledge Society was rated the fourth best school, entrepreneurial school in the world now, and they are very active. They have chapters worldwide. So what we want to do in teenager startups is also similar to that. Once you reach out to an entrepreneur, we'll say, you are a successful entrepreneur in Germany. Why don't you start a local chapter, right? Why don't you promote and encourage local teams so that they can become entrepreneurs like you? And that is the next step. So once we get coverage, and they would also like, who does not like, teenagers would like to connect with teenagers, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So we will tell them that this is your world. This is your world. I mean, our adult world is different. This is your world. Why don't you help fellow teenagers? Now we have somebody else, actually, I was talking to yesterday. He runs a platform called Pickups. Eric referred him, right? And one of the question was, how would the platform help? And in terms of fundraising, well, we are not going to, this platform will not necessarily be fundraising for at least next 6-7 years for the teenagers, but it will definitely give them a platform for them to, like, it's going to be like LinkedIn, so they can make friends with the entrepreneurs. They can form
and
alliances.
contact people.
Yeah, they can form alliances with different kind of startups worldwide, which they are doing. So teenager would like to work with teenager, right? So they'll learn and they can grow, and these are the next generation of multi-million-dollar businesses. Every business has started very small, unrecognized, unnoticed by a teenager, and all of a sudden the guy becomes big, right? But the network is very important. The power of network is unbelievable. I can tell you that, right?
Totally.
Yeah, it's not what you know. It's who you are connected and how many people you are connected, which is the future, right? And the moment you connect everybody, like UK itself, you see between 16 to 19 in UK itself, there are about 4,000 new businesses established last year. Only in UK, which is a very small country. Now think about it, you go Europe and you take US and you take India and you take China. There is so much happening and teenagers are starting businesses. Don't get me wrong. It's just that we don't know that, such things are there and we haven't reached out to them. So we should find a way to avenues to actually reach out to them and connect with them. This is why we are having this media section in teenager startups. Yeah. Did I answer your question?
Pardon?
So I said, did I answer your question, Drew?
Oh yeah.
I think we probably lost him.
You may have lost him. Oh, too bad.
Okay. So anybody else?
Yeah, I think that was pretty viable about how, he started out with how will this be formulated. Right. And I think that just having clarity, for each and every person is so important. If you ever have a question, just shoot it to the app channel, and we'll get it going. And then we'll also have very regular media coordinator meetings. We should probably have one a week, and so we'll put together a calendar. But let me open it up for any more questions at the moment. If anyone else has a question.
Yeah, so I have this basic question. You're like, there are a lot of entrepreneurs all around the world.
Okay, wait. What is your name? Sorry, what is your name?
It's Pratham.
Hello.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Yeah, thank you. I am myself a research student in ISER. It's like the Indian Institute of Science Education Research. So there's a lot of entrepreneurship cells and placement cells all going around. The thing is, it's like a personal experience when I've tried out for lab internships. As I give my regular mail ID or something like a personal thing, they just don't see it. And like if I give my university mail ID, they at least reply to it, even though I get no's or I get accepted. So I was thinking, do we have like an official mail ID to bounce off on? Because if I'm approaching other entrepreneurs, if they see my mail ID, it'll probably end up going to spam or something. And so does this have a build up for having like official mails or contacts? And I'm pretty sure you have your own contacts and communications with other entrepreneurs, but when I try to reach out to them, I think an official mail or a number, so that they know that what we are doing is also something true, and then it'll make it easier for them to tell their story to us and their struggles and all.
Right. So I can answer that, Mary.
Okay, thank you.
So Pratham, basically there are two things. One is to actually create personal IDs, for at an early stage is going to be challenging because we don't know who is going to come through. Even though when you see that there are about like 60 odd people who have signed up, and we actually stopped, and still people contacted and we started giving personal invites. But yes, once you have like 3-4 stories written and they are through, right? Then we will give you an official ID, which is going to be like, Pratham at teenagerstartups.com, or, at Pratham at media.teenagerstartups.com or something like that, right? Just like you get university, but we will give you a teenagerstartups.com ID once we get about 3 to 4 stories from you. Also, I wanted to add that we are working to get your certificates on blockchain. So they're tamper proof. We have somebody actually an intern who is starting with us. So we are trying to make sure that whatever time and effort and everything you spend is recognized, and there's a footprint around that, which is tamper proof. So we are also working on that. So we are also building technology and solutions which are state of art and something. And of course, yes, as I said, we will give you Teenager Startups ID after your couple of 3 to 4 stories, because it's very difficult once we have people who are joining, and to manage that infrastructure and create IDs and disable IDs and everything. It's a little bit of heavy lifting for our IT team also.
So I have an interjection here too, and I just want to talk about the pain point of communicating before you have those 3 or 4 stories, and where you're probably using your Gmail. The pain point is that that Teenager Startups is an unknown brand. It's an unknown brand name right now. So if you add Teenager Startups to your subject line, and use maybe the tagline, empower your future, empower our future, that the subject line will be hopefully attractive enough for somebody to want to respond. But it is a pain point. You just have to keep trying. And then if somebody doesn't reply, I'd keep that email address anyway. And when we get more traction, as a brand, I would go back. So don't be disillusioned if somebody doesn't respond to you during that pain point. It's just something that every startup has to go through. Nobody knows our name yet, and that will change. That's going to change radically. But I do, there will be
barrier, like a friction.
Sure. Yep. Absolutely. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does.
Right. Amrita, you had a question. Yeah. Amrita, you had a question. Go ahead. I think you raised your hand.
She needs to put her audio on.
Yeah, I tried to do unmute on her. So in the meantime, if anybody else has a question, they can ask.
No more questions? Well, I just want to thank everyone for your time, invaluable time, and thank you all for participating. And we are so excited that you're on board, and we're building this absolutely, totally amazing media group. And today is the very, very first step forward, and we are going to, gain in experience and in influence, and I think it's just absolutely totally amazing. And we'll come back to you with our next our video call probably a week from now, probably every week, and we'll try to make it as consistent as possible. But thank you from Roshan and me, and thank you for being so great to jump in and begin to build the media group with us. So we'll sign off now, and thank you again.
Yeah, thank you very much, guys. And if you have questions, please ask on the WhatsApp channel, and we look forward to working with you guys. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.